This is where it starts. Asta's next and presumably last training arc has finally begun, and we get to see some more of the Land of the Sun. We even have our first fight on this brand new continent. We meet Asta's actual new mentor and get a peek at what he might be able to do after this training arc. We still don't have a proper name for this arc, but until we do, this is effectively Wano Act 4, now in Black Clover. Let's get to it. We open right where last week's chapter ended off. Asta has gotten to his feet and walked over to the balcony, appreciating the view of the city we saw in that 2-page spread. It's left him a bit awestruck. Still, it's finally dawned on our boy that he is in a foreign country, and a very distinct foreign country at that. The Land of the Sun is the homeland Captain Yami was never able to return to, the one he had basically given up on ever seeing again. How is Asta supposed to get back to the Clover Kingdom from here? If it was as simple as finding a ship, Yami could have gotten home all those years ago. Is it even possible to go back? Ryuya hasn't bothered getting up. He waves Asta back down, telling him to relax. Our Shogun friend's apparently been able to sense that Lucius isn't making a move anytime soon. And so there's really no reason to hurry or worry about the return journey. And that Renegon of his sure is impressive. Asta isn't able to believe that just from hearing not Yami say the words though. He is still sweating, worrying about his homeland and his friends. Asta further questions his host. What does the Shogun title mean? He's also not sure what name to use with him. Ryuya? Ryudo? Asta is too used to dealing with people who only use one name. Ryuya takes a second to think Asta's question through. He's not sure how to explain his title to someone from a distant land. Eventually he goes with an analogy. A Shogun is equivalent to the Clover Kingdom's Wizard King. This makes sense. The Wizard King was based on the historical Shogun title, a military leader who takes command of the armed forces while the Emperor deals with civilian matters. This implies Ryuya has his own useless Emperor to deal with. Hopefully he's better than Augustus Kira Clover at least. Ryuya is also fine with Asta just calling him Ryu, going beyond even a first name basis with a chuckle. The Shogun of the Land of the Sun really doesn't care about formality, and I suppose that is one more way in which he is just like Julius. However, there is a difference between them, and it is something deeper than Ryuya looking a bit scruffy. Even without the ability to sense magical power, Asta is able to pick up on it. While his Wizard King had ludicrous amounts of magic, Ryuya doesn't seem that strong. Ryuya is happy to confirm it with another laugh. He doesn't mind being seen as weak, although this isn't exactly filling Asta with confidence in his new host. He is apparently hanging out with off-brand Julius. Same title, but no cool time magic to back it up. How is Ryuya able to make these predictions without magical power? Is he just guessing, or is there something more to it? Before Asta can say anything more, however, Ryuya's assistant speaks up, and she is none too happy with Asta's tone during this conversation. To be fair to her, he did just call one of the leaders of her country a weakling. It's not too surprising someone who works for Ryuya might take that personally. She warns him, the outsider, not to dare speaking to her lord in such a disrespectful way again. The strange woman is glaring daggers at Asta, the shadow of killing intent looming over her eyes. It has to be a familiar feeling for our would-be Wizard King by this point. Asta tries to apologize to her, but stumbles on his words. Dealing with nobility or easily offended people has never been his strong suit. Thankfully, Ryuya takes it all in good grace. This man doesn't bother to shave regularly. People being casual with him isn't anything to worry about. He tells his assistant, Ichika, to calm down. Everything is alright. They are all friends here. Even as things de-escalate, Asta remains worried however. He can sense something familiar about Ichika's ki, something he can't quite identify. But he can also sense that she is still mad at him and he really shouldn't go near her. Given that she is still glaring across the room at him, that is a pretty safe bet. Before Asta can work out what she's thinking, Ryuya interrupts with an idea. Asta must be worried about his homeland, the painful death of everyone he loves, and the prospect of his squad being turned into monstrous purified devil hosts. But he should look on the bright side. He has ended up in a foreign country and has nothing better to do right here and now. Why not do a bit of sightseeing? It's at least something for him to focus on rather than Lucius and the Clover Kingdom. Getting out, breathing fresh air, and seeing some cool local attractions might help calm him down a bit. Asta does not object to this tourism therapy plan. It's not like he has a better idea of what to do next. Soon enough, the three of them are strolling down a wide street in the middle of town. They haven't even bothered with a change of clothes. There are just three more figures in the crowd, passing by without drawing any attention. Ichika is still looking sullen, but Ryuya is beaming. Getting to show a stranger around his country must be a rare treat, and Asta is beyond appreciative. He has stars in his eyes, again awestruck at all these strange sights of the Land of the Sun. The village boy in him has always enjoyed getting to see new things. And soon enough, he gets something really extraordinary with a couple of street performers. The two twirl these long parchment scrolls through the air, crawling out to anyone who passes by. They are happy to invite everyone to witness a dance of fire and water birds. They call small spirits out of these magical scrolls, the creatures wheeling through the air above them, passing one another. It goes over well with their audience. A small crowd is soon formed around the performing brothers, clapping, pointing, and cheering at the majestic birds. Asta is confused by this. That was clearly magic. Somehow though, these performers were able to cast spells without a grimoire. Ryuya explains that these scrolls are simply the local equivalent. Everyone here uses them to perform sorcery, the local term for magic. This has seemingly gotten Asta's attention. Even the basic item people use for spellcasting is different here. Who knows what else might be different in this strange foreign land? Before Asta can learn any more about the local power system though, he's distracted by something far more important. No potatoes. The signature crops of Hage village are somehow present on another continent. Just holding one in his hands has almost reduced Asta to tears. It is a reminder of the place where he grew up, of better times. It makes him feel safe. It's quite impressive that the stall vendor manages to keep a straight face through Asta's words here. No potatoes were not known for being particularly tasty. Seeing someone break down like this over a plain vegetable has to be bizarre. But he just praises Asta's taste, clearly hoping for a big sale from this overenthusiastic foreigner. Before he can pull it off, however, Asta notices something else. He spots a young woman leading her little brother down the street. The two have gone out grocery shopping together, likely after supplies for tonight's meal. The young boy is trying to get his sister to buy something tasty for dinner, while she is resolved to stick with the cheaper no potatoes. A rather familiar story. Odds are good that they can't afford anything more. Now, the sight of the pair tugs on Asta's heartstrings, as does the conversation they share. It is all too familiar to him. He was just like that as a kid, wandering the market with Yuno and Sister Lily. He flashes back to that time. Asta now, the little kid, excitedly pointing at something tasty but too expensive to buy. He can probably hear Sister Lily's patient laugh. The memory would have otherwise been comforting to Asta. This was a time of peace and safety with someone who cared about him. He didn't need to worry about friends in trouble or apocalyptic threats to the Clover Kingdom. But now that memory has a dark twist to it. Thinking back to that time reminds Asta of what happened to Sister Lily. What she became thanks to Lucius turning her into a devil host. What she tried to do to him. Asta cannot process that thought, just standing in place, muttering sister to himself. His eyes are wide. Even now, the idea of Sister Lily trying to kill him is something Asta just can't deal with. It wasn't like the elves or even Lucius, a different person stealing the body of a friend. She calls him Asta. It was Lily, but not Lily. It just doesn't make sense. Ryuya, however, notices something while his guest is standing there, lost in thought. The Shogun goes over to the brother and sister Asta noticed, leading them in a new direction and pointing to something strange that they can't make out up in the sky. Asta can't understand what the Shogun is doing at first. Ryuya is not bringing them over to talk to him. He is leading the pair in a different direction entirely. And there's no apparent reason for him to do so. It just seems random. But then, the fence the two siblings have been standing beside explodes. There is a massive gout of fire that covers half the street, obscuring Ryuya and the siblings from Asta and Ichika. And out of the explosion emerges a motley looking group of bandits. Their clothes are ragged, but their blades are sharp, and the whole group is already laughing at the destruction. The leader is sporting a hefty looking flaming club, likely what blew through the fence. It's a pretty safe bet he's got some kind of fire sorcery backing him up. His henchmen all have their blades drawn, ready for a fight, though none of them are wielding their scrolls. They call out to the crowd, ordering them to bring food and valuables if they want to live. The crowd instead screams in terror and starts to run away. It's hard not to panic after a massive explosion and a bunch of people with weapons show up. Asta knows that even an idyllic looking country like the Land of the Sun still has its share of bad guys. He yells for Ryuya, still unable to see his host over the smoke. Thankfully, the Shogun is unharmed, as are the two siblings he led away from the fence. He sends the brother and sister on their way with a smile, remarking on how surprising this attack was. And yeah, no. Even Asta doesn't buy for a second that Ryuya was actually surprised by this. It is very clear that Ryuya saved the family intentionally, getting them out of the way of the bandit attack. He didn't even have a good excuse for leading them away. Somehow he was able to tell the explosion was coming even before it happened, likely through the use of his eye. The bandit leader laughs but has finally noticed something is off. He looks towards Ryuya, seeming to partially recognize the eye patch wearing Shogun. However, Ryuya chuckles at the bearded man's nervous reaction. He claims the bandit shouldn't be scared of the Shogun. He just broke through a wall with his sorcery, and apparently, Ryuya has no sorcery power whatsoever. This shouldn't even be a close matchup. The bandit doesn't argue about Ryuya's lack of magic. This is very interesting given the nature of his eye. Even if Ryuya really did just get lucky with saving the family, we know he can sense things he shouldn't. Something about his condition allows the Shogun to see the future and what is going on in the Clover Kingdom. Yet he is seemingly a magical blank just like Asta. Is that something specific to his cursed eye, or can Asta potentially learn it? Is that something specific to his cursed eye, or can anyone in the Land of the Sun cast spells without inherent magic? Either way, Ryuya isn't willing to get involved in this fight. If his powers are something that can be used in combat, he's seemingly resolved to keep that a secret for the moment. Instead, he is leaving the job of dealing with the bandits to Ichika. His assistant is more than ready to take on 4 strong-looking men, all of whom are armed. She doesn't even bother to draw her own sword before acknowledging the Shogun's request, stepping up right away. The bandit leader laughs hard at this idea, not seeing anything to be scared of in this slender girl. Even if she did draw her blade, it probably wouldn't intimidate this lug. He offers Ichika a chance to come along with them and keep them company. As soon as he said that, you can probably tell how this fight was going to end. Ichika looks at the bandits with contempt as something akin to crackling lightning accompanies her glare. She orders the Cretans not to touch her. Some kind of imperceptible energy starts to surge into her hands, a shift that Asta notices. That wasn't magic, that was some kind of key ability. Ichika shifts easily into a ready stance, still not drawing her katana. She moves so fast it is hard to track, striking all 4 bandits in near perfect unison with just the flat of her palm. That one motion was all it took to end the fight. The oh so strong bandits are knocked back hard against the wall and sink, each one unconscious from the impact. There are cracks in the plaster from the force of Ichika's strikes. There was so much power in this attack that the bandits' weapons and scrolls have been knocked into the air. The bandits are out cold even before their gear has even hit the ground. The speed and force needed to knock the 4 men back that fast is beyond impressive. Asta is still trying to work out what happened here. Something about what Ichika just did made her ki swell, rapidly growing far more intense and powerful. He has used his ability to sense ki to help him in fights before, but Asta never managed anything like this. Yet there was some kind of darkness to Ichika in that fight, something Asta can't quite identify. The crowd aren't waiting for him to work it out though. A hero just saved them all from a bandit attack. People are already cheering for Ichika and celebrating her victory over the 4 explosion-happy robbers. One member of the crowd identifies her as one of the 7 Ryuzen. These are seemingly a band of local heroes in the Land of the Sun. One passerby yells to her, "You're the best, Yami-dono." Hearing that name is enough to help Asta finally work out who he is dealing with, and why this strange woman also feels familiar. And it shocks him to his core. It's hilarious how much of a surprise this is to Asta. His eyes go wide and he points at Ichika with a shaky arm, stammering, "This can't be right." He is not able to believe the obvious truth, or even work out what question to ask her to try and confirm it. Ichika isn't having this, however. She grabs Asta's head and hoists him off the ground, just like a certain other Yami has done so many times before. She growls at Asta not to approach her so casually, calling him an outsider again. Seeing this reaction from his assistant is enough to get Ryuya chuckling again. He confirms what the readers have probably guessed by this point. Yami Ichika is indeed the little sister of Yami Sukehiro, our beloved Black Bull captain. Asta working together with her is the heart of Ryuya's plan to help give Asta a power-up. If the young Black Bull wants to get strong enough to fight Lucius, he should train with Ichika and her team, the 7 Ryuzen. Their mastery of ki has to be something useful for a magicless swordsman. It's a good idea. Asta has already learned to sense ki. He's got a starting point to work from. Although unfortunately, Asta has not made the best first impression of his new sensei. Ichika spells her thoughts out for this disappointing pupil, still glaring daggers at the young Black Bull and not letting go of his head. Ryuya is trying to help Asta, and Ichika listens to the Shogun. She respects him and she will follow his orders. But she hates men like Asta. There is no way in hell she would do this if it wasn't for Ryuya. And so it doesn't look like training with her is going to be an easy time for our hero. But thanks to all this, we have a solid idea of where the arc is going now. We've gotten our first real look at the Land of the Sun and know roughly what Asta's training is going to look like. He is going to be studying with the Ryuzen and picking up some additional mastery of ki. But it's not going to be easy. Will he be able to get along with the other 6 Ryuzen? And how grueling is this training about to be? Feel free to let us know what you think down below. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.